God of compassion, be in my speaking and in our listening. May the words of this sermon point not to me, but to your love that sees us, knows us, and calls us beloved. Open our hearts to hear what you would have us receive today. Amen. There's enough in today's gospel for several sermons. There's a lot going on. We could linger at the dinner table with Matthew and the other tax collectors and sinners, watching Jesus share a meal with those that others would rather avoid. We could stand with the grieving father as his love for his daughter drives him to Jesus in desperation. We could walk alongside the woman who has suffered for 12 long years, still searching for hope. Or we could stand in silent astonishment as a little girl is restored to life. Each of these stories carries its own power. Yet taken together, they point to something deeper. So what holds them together? At first glance, the people in these encounters seem to have very little in common. We have a tax collector, a respected synagogue leader, a woman living on the margins, and we have a child at the edge of death. Yet each one comes to Jesus carrying something: a hope, a fear, a longing, a need. And isn't that how most of us come to God? Not with polished, perfect faith, but simply carrying what we can no longer bear alone. Christian writer Anne Lamott has a gift for cutting through religious language to get to the heart of things. In her writing on prayer, she suggests that most of our prayers fall into three essential categories: help, thanks, and wow. Help, thanks, and wow. There are seasons in our lives where gratitude flows easily. There are moments when awe rises naturally within us. But many of us know the seasons when the only prayer that we can manage is help. Help me through this grief. Help me with this diagnosis. Help me carry what feels too heavy to bear. The people in today's gospel know that prayer well. The synagogue leader comes with a dying daughter and nothing left but desperate hope. The woman suffering from hemorrhages for 12 years doesn't even speak her prayer out loud. She simply reaches out in silence. And then comes the wow, the wonder that breaks forth when lives are restored and God's power moves. But today, I want to suggest that there's a fourth prayer. There's a fourth prayer woven through this gospel, and it is reach. Reach. Sometimes faith isn't eloquent. Sometimes it is just the courage to simply reach out. The woman with the hemorrhage draws me most deeply. For 12 years, she had carried not only physical suffering, profound isolation. In her culture, her continual bleeding made her ritually unclean. She lived separate from worship, separate from community, and separate from ordinary touch. 12 years is a long time to hope, to wait, and to wonder if anything will ever change. Then she hears that Jesus is passing by. She doesn't make a speech. She doesn't draw attention to herself. She simply reaches through the crowd and touches the hem of his garment, the tassels that reminded faithful Jews of God's covenant promises. In that quiet trembling, she's saying, I still believe that something good might happen. and Jesus turns. He sees her, and he calls her daughter. This is the only time in Matthew's gospel that he addresses a woman in this way. Not woman, not sufferer, daughter. This is a word of belonging, a word of tender affection. Before he heals her body, he restores her identity. He sees her, not her condition, not her reputation, not her shame, her. This is the pattern throughout the gospel. Jesus consistently sees people differently than the world sees them. Where others saw only a tax collector, Jesus saw a future disciple. Where others saw sinners and outcasts, Jesus saw people worthy of mercy and seated at a table. Where others saw an unclean woman, Jesus saw a beloved daughter. And where others saw death, Jesus saw life waiting to be awakened. The world is so quick to label us. Label us a failure because of a divorce. Label us an abomination because of who we love. Weak because we struggle with addiction. Difficult because we live with mental illness. Unproductive for being unemployed. Too old. Too young. Too different. Too much. Not enough. Sometimes those labels come from society. Sometimes they come from family. Sometimes they come from churches. And sometimes they come from the critical voices inside of our own heads. Over time, we can begin to believe those labels tell the whole story of who we are. But the good news of this gospel is that Jesus looks beyond every label. He sees the beloved child of God underneath. He sees possibility where others see failure. He sees belonging where others see exclusion. He sees life where others see endings. And the same Jesus who saw Matthew, who saw the suffering woman, who saw the grieving father, and who saw the little girl, that same Jesus sees all of us. He sees the burdens you carry. He sees the prayers you whisper when no one else is listening. He sees the grief you try to hide and the hopes that you hardly dare to name. He is not distant or indifferent. He is the one who turns towards us in our reaching. So today, if you are carrying something heavy, if you feel unseen, if you feel labeled, forgotten, reach. Reach, my friends, with whatever faith you have left. Even if it is the smallest gesture, because the moment that you reach, you will find that Christ has already turned towards you in love. Healing often begins the moment that we realize we have been seen by God all along. May we leave this place today with fresh courage to reach towards the one who truly sees us, knows us, and calls us beloved. Amen.